Welcome to The Explainer. We're about to jump into one of the biggest topics on the planet, artificial intelligence. My goal here is pretty simple. We're going to build a quick, solid foundation so you can really understand what AI is, what it isn't, and most importantly, why it all matters.
Okay, so let's start with the big one, right? The question that kind of hangs over everything else. We hear about AI all the time. We use it every single day. But is any of it actually intelligent? Or are we just seeing something that's really, really good at faking it?
To even begin to answer that, we have to get our terms straight. You hear AI, machine learning, deep learning, they get tossed around like they all mean the same thing, but they absolutely don't. Think of it like a family tree. There's a clear hierarchy, and once you see it, everything starts to make a lot more sense.
So at the very top of that tree, you've got the great-grandparent of it all, artificial intelligence. The most important thing to get here is that AI isn't a single technology. It's the whole field of study. It's the big, overarching idea of getting machines to do stuff that would normally take a human brain to figure out.
Okay, so one step down, inside that huge AI bubble, you find machine learning. And this is where things get really interesting. This is how most modern AI actually works. Instead of a person writing endless lines of code for every possible outcome, we just feed the machine a ton of data, and the algorithm learns to find the patterns all by itself. And the real engine behind the AI boom we're seeing right now, that's deep learning. It's a superpowered version of machine learning that uses these complex structures called neural networks, which are, loosely inspired by our own brains, to find these incredibly subtle, complex patterns in just massive, massive data sets. This is the magic behind things like ChatGPT or Midjourney.
All right, this slide is maybe the most important one in this whole section. If you remember one thing, make it this. Every single AI you have ever interacted with is what we call artificial narrow intelligence. ANI. It's an absolute genius at one specific thing. Playing Go, recommending your next Netflix binge, whatever. The other thing, artificial general intelligence, or AGI, the sci-fi idea of a human-like consciousness that can learn anything, it does not exist. It's pure science fiction, at least for now.
Okay, so now that we've got that foundation, let's zoom in on the specific kind of narrow AI that has just completely changed the game. This is the moment when AI went from just analyzing stuff to actually creating stuff.
And that brings us to generative AI. This is the whole ball game right now. Its whole purpose in life isn't just to sort or predict, it's to generate brand new, totally original content. It could be an essay, a stunning piece of art, a working piece of computer code. Whatever it is, the goal is to create something that feels like a human made it.
So with this new creative power, we needed a new way to talk to these machines. And that's where prompting comes in. This SHOT framework is a really simple way to think about it. 0 shot is just a straight-up command, write me a poem. 1 shot is when you give it one example to copy. And few shot is where you give it a couple of examples so it can learn a more complicated pattern, right there on the spot. Of course, anytime you have a technology this powerful and this new, you get a tidal wave of hype, a lot of confusion, and frankly, some myths that just refuse to die. So let's spend a minute just separating the signal from the noise.
Let's start with the big one. Is the AI you're talking to sentient? Is it conscious? The answer is a hard, unequivocal no. Remember, all AI today is narrow AI. These big language models are just incredibly, incredibly good at recognizing patterns in the text they were trained on and then predicting the next most likely word. They are expert-level mimics, not conscious minds. Next myth, that AI is perfect. It's not. It is only ever as good as the data it was trained on. And by the way, it's about the quality and diversity of that data, not just the sheer amount. AI will make mistakes, and sometimes it will even hallucinate, which is a great way of saying it will confidently make stuff up that is completely false. Then there's this idea that AI is some kind of magic wand that's going to solve all our problems. It's not. Look, it's an unbelievably powerful tool, but it works best when it's helping us, when it's augmenting what we do. Think of it as the ultimate co-pilot, not the pilot. And that brings us to the really tricky myth about jobs. The conversation is so much more nuanced than just AI is coming for our jobs. A much more subtle and maybe bigger risk is what experts call the hollowing out of junior-level work. If AI automates all the entry-level tasks, how do people learn the ropes? How do you become a senior expert if you never get to do the foundational work that teaches you the business? That's a huge challenge.
So if you're going to use these tools intelligently, you need a way to evaluate them. And a really smart framework doesn't just ask, is it accurate? It asks a bunch of other crucial questions. Is it easy to use? What's the real cost? And as you can see here, the really important ones. Is it biased? And is it transparent? Can I understand why it gave me the answer it did? Those ethical questions are not an afterthought. They're at the very core of whether a tool is any good.
And that brings us to what might be the most important part of this entire conversation, our collective responsibility to steer this technology in a safe and ethical direction. It's not enough to just marvel at what it can do, we have to seriously grapple with the consequences.
So the whole field of responsible AI is built on these foundational pillars. Things like fairness, making sure it treats everyone the same. Transparency, so we're not just dealing with a mysterious black box. But the one I really want to highlight is accountability. This is the idea that at the end of the day, a human being, not an algorithm, has to be on the hook for what an AI system does.
But if you ask experts what the single most critical failure mode is, they'll almost all say the same thing: algorithmic bias. This is where the AI doesn't just learn from our messy, biased human history, it actually magnifies those biases and unleashes them at incredible scale. Here's a real-world and pretty famous example. A huge company built a tool to help them sort through job applications, but they trained it on 10 years of their own hiring data, which happened to be mostly male. The result? The AI taught itself that male candidates were better and literally started penalizing resumes that had the word women's in them, like captain of the women's chess club.
And it gets even more serious. A healthcare algorithm used in hospitals all over the US was found to be systematically less likely to refer Black patients for extra care, even when they were just as sick as white patients. And why? Because the algorithm used how much money was spent on a patient in the past as a lazy shortcut for how sick they are now, completely ignoring the systemic inequities in healthcare access.
So all of these really thorny challenges, they bring us right back around to where we started. When a machine produces a flawless, human-sounding response, what is it actually doing? Is it thinking, or is it just simulating thought? This is the core of a debate that's been going on for over half a century. On one side, you have the famous Turing test. It basically says, if you can't tell the difference between the machine and a human, then who cares? Just call it intelligent. But on the other side, you have this brilliant thought experiment called the Chinese room. Imagine I'm in a room and I don't speak a word of Chinese, but I have a giant rulebook. Someone slides a question in Chinese under the door. I look up the symbols in my rulebook, follow the instructions, and slide a perfect answer back out. To the person outside, I look like a fluent Chinese speaker. I'd pass the Turing test. But do I understand Chinese? Not one bit. I'm just manipulating symbols based on rules. I'm a master of the grammar, the syntax, but have zero clue about the meaning, the semantics. And that, right there, is where most experts believe we are today. The current generation of AI is a breathtakingly sophisticated Chinese room. It's a master of syntax, but it has no grasp of semantics. Which leaves us with the final, big question to think about as we move into this new era. Are we building a true thinking partner, or are we just perfecting the ultimate imitation machine?